I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're exploring an unforgettable blend of history, magic, and mythical destiny. We're talking about a gripping fantasy novel called Labyrinth of Shadows, The Witch's Rebirth, Part 1. It's written by a terrific author. Her name is Michaela Riley, and she weaves a tale of ancient prophecy, cosmic unrest, and a powerful young witch destined to reshape the world. Set against the crumbling backdrop of the Western Roman Empire, this story combines historical intrigue and supernatural power for an epic that will leave readers spellbound. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Pleasure to be here. Hi.
Nice to meet you. Hello as well. This
Hello.
is a terrific book. How much of that witch is you? Let me start out by asking that provocative question.
Well, there's probably a lot of me in that because I call it in my world, in my life, we have past lives that and we call that our past careers. And
Mhm.
I think that that's really interesting because for Merona, it's her rebirth, right? She keeps becoming something better in every life. And so yes, she's pretty much me, except she's very magical and I am not.
Very cool. Do you believe in rebirth? Do you believe in some of the philosophies behind this tale?
Yes, I do. I did a lot of research on reincarnation, which really was why I wanted to put this in the book. It's such an interesting topic. Nobody can say that and I am a nurse, that's my
Mhm.
background. Um, and I've heard patients that have had near-death experiences talk about things like that. And it just depends on where your beliefs are. I grew up Catholic. We don't really believe in reincarnation. But I do truly believe in it. I think that it's a fascinating topic and something that needs more research.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are intrigued by life after death and what that next world is, and reincarnation or past lives, whatever you might call it, certainly are very, very intriguing. And certainly we all have that deja vu within us to make us feel like we've done that before, or we were destined to do this, or whatever that feeling might be. So that's an aspect of this novel that is great. Now, this is part of a series. Tell us about your work.
Yes, this is part of a series. Labyrinth of Shadows is part one, and obviously that's the beginning of her story. You get to, when you're reading that book, you get to witness her death at the beginning and then her rebirth. And then there is the Cauldron of Dagda, which is part two, and that's in 540 AD. And then there's the Spear of Lugh, and that is in 544 AD. And this is all in Gaul or present day France.
Amazing. Now, for setting these novels in those different time periods, did you have to do research or are you a history buff that you knew about this a little bit? Tell us about that, because this one's set during the fall of the Roman Empire, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really funny because I started doing my research on ancestry for my family,
Hmm.
trying to do the Mayflower, all of that stuff, and just kept going back. And I ended with a time period that I thought was fascinating. And allegedly, Clovis the First is a family member. Don't know. I mean, you do the research, but you could take one wrong turn, and but at any rate, I ended up with Clovis and France, which I thought was just fascinating. And there's not a lot of information about that time period.
Hmm.
And there's so much intrigue about Clovis and mysticism and their background and what they believed in reincarnation and the bee, which comes from Egypt. And so it is a very fascinating time period. And I've had to create a lot of information because I didn't know obviously what it looked like. And I really did a lot of research for what trees or plants or what would it have looked like at that time period, because to me it is kind of fascinating to try to paint a picture, if you will, or write the story so that you can actually see what I wanted you to see about this book. And so it is a fascinating time frame, I think. And it was the beginning of everything was there were a lot of pagans then, and
Hmm.
paganism. It was called Celtica before Gaul, and this was the when they converted to Christianity. So it is a very important time frame in history.
Absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about the villain of the story, Armaeus, or
Oh
I don't know if
gosh,
I'm saying his name, pronouncing his
you
name
are.
correctly. Okay.
Yes, Armaeus. Yes, Armaeus is an ancient dark demon, and he wants all the power for himself. Basically, he wants Merona's power, and because he wants to reign supreme on earth. He wants to take over. He wants to be the evil deity, and he is a god.
Mhm.
So he wants to reign and sit at the top and let everything be evil and dark. And he doesn't really stop at anything. He's pretty powerful
Yeah,
and ugly.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think it's good to have a strong antagonist because you have a strong protagonist. So the clash is what makes the story captivating. Have you envisioned your books as a series of films or a TV series, perhaps?
I have been approached by a few people so far
Hmm.
about writing a screenplay for Labyrinth of Shadows, and
Hmm.
I think it would be fascinating to see that in a movie,
Yeah.
because it is so interesting, and people do really like witches.
Mhm.
That's a big genre, and I think it would be fascinating to see it
Yeah,
and
I
exciting
think
to work on
sci-fi
a project.
fantasy. I think sci-fi fantasy has really come to life with Netflix because you didn't see a lot of it before, but you're seeing
Right.
some of it, more of it now, right?
Right, absolutely. And there is a lot in the book, magic wise, and her spells that are very intricate. Can't talk today, intricate. And I think that would be fascinating to see that all come to life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think visualizing this on the big screen and all of the stunning visuals and the time periods and the sets and the settings and the characters, I think would be a fantastic series of films. So, Hollywood, if you're listening, here's a series of books that's ready to go. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Wonderful. What was it like writing this? Must have been fun kind of living in that space for a while, right?
it was fun. It took about a year of research. The first chapter of the book, which I don't want to give away because I really want readers to understand the beginning of
Mhm.
Merona's story. But I wrote that about 8 years ago when I was doing research, because witchcraft is really important element in my family. So at any rate, it's important to for me as a writer. I have more pages of research because it took about a year and a half of research because there are so many elements in the book, right? There's history and there's magic and there's religion and there's a time frame and
Mhm.
buildings and clothing. And yeah, my husband was really tired of listening to me talk about it. But to me, it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
But that was it, it gave me an opportunity to really bring the story to life because I love research. And so for me, it was very important to try to get it right,
Yeah.
even though it is a fantasy book, right?
Absolutely. Fantasy has to feel real in order
Yes.
to draw the reader or the viewer in. If it isn't plausible, I mean, obviously you have to suspend belief in some things, but the story should feel true and organic and real, and yours does, which is wonderful. Um, so tell us a little bit about, let's give the folks at home an overview of the story. We haven't quite done that yet. So tell them a little bit about Merona and what happens in part one of your trilogy.
Well, Merona, Merona obviously is a witch that has lived many lives before. But when she is reborn in this life in 478 AD in Gaul, she has no memory of her previous lives.
Mhm.
She will eventually have some of those memories that will come back. But when she reaches the age of 12, she is approached by the Morrigan, who comes to her in the form of a red wolf. And she's really alongside her. through the whole story to help guide her and support her. And the other characters in the book that are equally important is Murdoch, who is a warrior that has been in love with Merona in many lives and been with her in many lives. And he can shapeshift into a dragon, which is very helpful in many aspects of the book because he saves Merona many times.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to know about that. And then there's Married, who actually is a high priestess in the city of Septimania, which is in the south of France or Gaul at that time period, who adopts Merona, who is reborn in the city of Septimania in 478 AD on Samhain. And it's really fascinating because there's an eclipse and all of a sudden there's a baby on the altar. And during the middle of a ceremony, and of course there's a labyrinth. And so the labyrinth is the intricate part of the story, which also I believe is part of how our lives are, right? So we take different paths in our life, and that's what the labyrinth really signifies in the story and in our lives. So she is encountered by Armaeus, who is the evil demon, the dark demon, and he wants her powers. And so the book is about this good versus evil. And this continues, obviously, this challenge with Armaeus through the rest of the books because he's a very powerful demon and he just won't die. And neither will she.
Wonderful, wonderful. You did great work on these books. The book we've been focusing on primarily today is book 1 in this wonderful series. It is called Labyrinth of Shadows, The Witch's Rebirth, Part 1. Michaela Riley has woven a tale of ancient prophecy, cosmic unrest, and the story of a powerful witch destined to reshape the world. It is set against the crumbling backdrop of the Western Roman Empire, and this story combines historical intrigue and supernatural power for an epic that will leave readers absolutely wanting more, and they'll get more. There are 2 more books, and they'll just love them as well. Michaela, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Take care.
Pleasure's been all mine. Appreciate your wit, your wisdom, and your insight. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.